This morning, my dear friends, I was placed before a solemn reminder. We forget things. And what I was reminded unexpectedly of was while fishing for a passage on Beelzebul, the gentleman whom we've just read, I found something else I wasn't looking for at all. It was in these answers from down under, things which have come out in exorcisms, that a lost priest was howling from down under to other priests still on this side of time to be aware of the hugely great consecration that they bear in their person. Now, there are other things in the same vein, and strange enough, it corresponds indirectly to something else I was looking at the same time. The teaching of John Paul II on the Holy Eucharist and the priesthood. And he gives us in this encyclical Ecclesia de Eucharistia a whole spirituality, if you like, also of the priesthood. It's all revolving around the Blessed Sacrament, which wouldn't be there if it weren't for himself. Jean-Marie Vianney would say in this way, whenever you see a belfry, remember, O priest, that there's a presence under it because of you. You would also say, should you happen to bump into a priest if you're an angel, well, it's for the angel to kneel to the priest. Hence it is, and this came out in these things I was perusing this morning, that there's a huge attack on the priesthood from down under, because he's an awful nuisance. And it's interesting to observe, if one looks around the church, that quite often it's the good ones that topple. They're the most ferociously attacked. Now, other things also come through, e.g., in the series of events that happened in Germany trying to expel this large number of demons from the one that gave us the film that's been popularized under another name, Emily Rose. It's actually Anneliese Michael. That period, the mid-70s, was a period when things were happening invisibly, and we were only seeing them working out visibly. There are, it would seem, forces at work attacking not only the priest, but the Blessed Sacrament itself. I mean directly from down under. What can they do? They have to get hold of people of influence, priests and eventually influential priests and bishops. And it would seem that things which little by little came in, often through initial disobedience, then becoming by a certain force of pressure, norms, were actually not of divine inspiration. Now, this is separate from the council itself, where there is protection. An ecumenical council is guided and protected. It has to be so. All the bishops of the world together, in union with Peter, are protected. Here, we're at a later stage. We're into disobedience leading to pressure, not protected in the same way by the Spirit of God. And the proof is that if one studies the documents coming from the magisterium in this period, as late actually as 1980, one always finds the supreme authority of the Church trying to break, trying to stop, trying to limit the damage. E.g., 1980 now, there is a clear instruction from John Paul II, as late as that the Blessed Sacrament is to be distributed only by the consecrated hands of a priest, or of course a deacon, because that was made clear in the period that the deacon with the priest is the ordinary minister. Such is not the case of a layperson and cannot be so. Remember that initially things were brought in to help people, e.g. in situations of a huge shortage of priests, for instance Africa, to allow them to be nourished with the bread of life. That's how things initially came in, the catechist. And then this was a lever. You now go to an assembly, and if you're a priest, if you know, for instance, somebody who's died, therefore out of courtesy one goes perhaps to the funeral, what will happen? You'll be there along with the parish priest of the area, and you can be sure that at Holy Communion the norm will be completely toppled. You will be usually asked to sit down, while the ordinary minister, usually a lady, comes up and takes your place. Now, do you see what's going on there? It's only a few years later, but it's a complete reversal of the initial permission given for the good of souls. What else? Initially, the permission to receive standing was there. No question whatsoever of obligation. It actually comes out explicitly in these exorcisms that the taking away of the choice in practice through the physical taking away of the altar rails was of demonic inspiration and pressure. Why? Your man hates his God. It's a huge satanic revenge on the Creator. And priests with little interiority, little adoration, will be fully unaware of what they're getting involved in by encouraging this kind of thing, especially in the early period when they had control over it. No one spoke up. Already under Paul VI, pressure was coming from Northern Europe, Germany, Belgium, France. And he published already in the 60s, the late 60s, a document indicating his clear teaching that the norm was what it always had been, directly on the tongue. But he was trying to limit the damage by somehow getting a loophole through for certain bishops and so on. But what happened was, once it was there, it was hugely forced on all the bishops practically everywhere throughout the world. There are a few actually who don't. So we have the situation then when three things down the line are combined. The norm will be for a person to come into a church, to receive Holy Communion standing at the same height as his Maker, King and Judge, receiving the bread of angels from some person clad in the same clothing as they've been wearing in the bar, often actually not even professionally adequate, because if you look carefully how extraordinary ministers are dressing now, it's very casual. And at a board meeting, one wouldn't wear those casual clothes. Anything will do for God. They will then, of course, because it's another layperson, receive in the hand. It has no sense that one layperson can be more dignified than another. What will happen then? They will, if you look carefully, very few of them will still be actually in mode of prayer, I would say 3 minutes later. The large number of distribution points makes it such that as soon as one has received the host, it's practically over. And actually, quite a lot will go out at that point still. Add to that what's been happening in recent times through the program of Do This in Memory. Involve the parents in the preparation of the children for the sacraments. What happens there? They'll come to these monthly celebrations where the whole family is supposed to be present and observe how they come and go. I heard only yesterday a case of parents who came in because they were expected to be there. In they came, chewing gum, receiving the Blessed Sacrament with the same in the mouth, taking it like that, as like a pincer, and off they went straight away with the Blessed Sacrament still inside them or in their mouth. Through the front door, of course. Now, do you see what's going on here? The powers underneath are having a whale of a time. This is only about 30 years after, bit by bit, things were being letting go of. But he could see it all. And do you know that we have documents from inside the Freemasonry indicating they wanted precisely these, and apparently they succeeded beyond every expectation. It was hugely programmed. Now, what am I getting at? This, my friends, is something that concerns each of you. If you're aware of it, the Lord wants you to make up for it. Everyone here has faith and deep faith. Most of you have access to a place of adoration. The Lord would like you to come and console his heart. That you can do. It's no use cursing the dark. Light a candle, in this case of reparation. I just finished. The first reading talks about what we who are in a state of grace should not do. Words are formed by the throne. The tongue is the throne extended to receive the divine majesty. If that tongue is yellow with nicotine and used to emitting swear words and hurtful words, it's an unworthy throne. There has to be a linear movement and one continuum of mode, not switching off, but radiating that healing warmth that we have touched. And I leave you with this. It's a menu for life. Tips. How to be sources of healing, joy, and the best clothing is